And we have to know how to deal with this type of this age group, as it were. All right, freedom, individual freedom and collective freedom of expression and thought and ideas. You have the right to disagree. You have the right to agree, even with parents. But you must do it respectfully so if you disagree. But a time is coming when it will be very close, a thin line between our health and our religion. And if the health is part of your religion, that's a little more complicated. And I pray that each one of us will be given guidance and discernment in making choices that will bring honor and glory to God. Let us bow our heads as we begin this session and use the limited time that we have. Let us pray. Our gracious God and Father in heaven, be with us in this session. Please take control, give us the guidance and discernment of your Holy Spirit, and to follow that which is in harmony with your will based on your word. So give us the individual conviction and persuasion as to how to best deal even with our teenagers, adolescents, those who have adolescents and teenagers, and how to manage them aright. Because so often we know so much about so many things and cannot manage our children aright. And we have to give an account to you for the way that we have dealt with them, whether our own or others who may be wayward as well. So bless and guide and direct to all who listen. Give us your Holy Spirit in Jesus' name. Amen. As I said, this is a very, very dealing with adolescents is not an easy task. And there are many people who might have been able to handle the little ones when they are growing up, exercise their control over dealing with them and teach them self-control. But when they reach the stage of adolescence, they can't manage. They are of age, they're coming to age, and you want not to crush their spirit of independence in terms of what they want to do on their own. Adolescent, challenging, defiant, willful behavior. We need to know how to deal with it aright so that we do not crush their spirit, lead them astray, or seek still to dominate them when they are making their own independent freedom of choice to do what they will by a certain time on. So if you can't fly the kite when it is growing up, by the time it reaches the air and all the winds are blowing, you try to be rough with them, the cord may very well pop and you lose that connection with them, never more to see them under your embrace again. So you want to win them. You want to be firm but gentle. You want to influence them in such a way that leads them to make a decision for Jesus Christ. And that's important. All right, because there are times when they will put on their wings and fly away. And if they don't like the atmosphere at home, they don't like what you were telling them and dictating to them, they will definitely leave and probably never return. And this is not what, as Christians, we want with our adolescents, them firing us. Rather we want them to maintain a connection with us and enjoy their family and friendship as well. All right, very, very important thoughts to consider. Now, let's start the ball rolling with 1 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 12. 1 Timothy chapter 4 verse 12 says, "Let no man despise the youth." In other words, do not let anybody look down upon your teenage, adolescent, or youthful years. Because sometimes our behavior causes people to look down upon us and disrespect us, especially when we disrespect them too. And people usually judge by behavior, not by motive, not by love not the fact that there were trial and error experiences and that you need to be patient with them. They usually judge young people based on their behavior, and they look down upon them based on their behavior. The scripture says, let no man despise the youth, but be thou an example of the believers. Notice the word example of the believers. What a very important word indeed. Be an example of the believers. How? In word, in conversation, that's your lifestyle, in charity, your good deeds, in spirit, your attitudes, in faith, your belief system, and in purity, your pure lifestyle. And this is Paul's encouragement to Timothy, which is applicable to all youth and teenagers alike. And we don't want anyone looking down upon us, and we should not look down upon our youth, as it were, but be an example for them, and they should be example for other believers as well. So as parents, we want to be doing our best to teach our children or adolescents the concept of owning their decisions and their choices and taking responsibility for their actions. This can sometimes counteract their behaviors. Hear that? Teaching them how to own their own decisions, taking responsibility for their action. And that can sometimes counteract these behaviors that we get that are negative even from them. Teaching the children your expectations, that's one thing, but God's expectations of them. They must understand both. It is not just all about making your own way happy. It is not just always about them doing all that you want them to do, especially when they're growing out of those adolescent years into young adulthood. You want that what you would have put in help to guide and motivate them along the way for the rest of their lives. Very important. So the question one parent asks, how do I motivate my adolescent? He seems unmotivated and reluctant to do things around the house. Now, there's one thing you need to understand dealing with adolescents, and that thing is how their brains are wired.
You need to motivate them from young.
How their brains are wired. There's a section of the human brain called the prefrontal cortex, which function is to control personality expression, how they express their personality, decision making, and moderating social behavior. That's it. And if it is immature, it will influence their personality expression, their decision making, and will not help in moderating their social behavior. But the older they grow, the more it is under control. In other words, our teen years are the time when we begin to really practice using this section of our brain in the real world, which leads to criticizing, arguing, testing boundaries, and ultimately understanding and hopefully getting a grip of our decision-making processes. That section of the brain deals with that. In a very real sense, we must let our teenagers make their own mistakes. You can only tell them, you can only teach them, but you have to give room for them to make their own mistakes. So if they think that you are old and dotish and don't know what you are telling them, respect their choice and allow them to make their own mistakes. It is not your fault as a parent, it is their choice at their age. You can only tell them and seek to guide them but they eventually have to make their own decision. And Cain and Abel make their own choices. They had the same upbringing, same parentage, same background, same experiences from the parent, but one made one choice, the other one made the other. Consequences must be left with individuals, even adolescents in late years going into young adulthood. And if they don't respect your counsel and obeyed you when they were young, would you expect them to do it when they're older and they want their independence and their freedom and believe that their judgment is the best? You think they're going to listen to you then? When they didn't listen to you when they were children, when you never got that influence over them, you never gained their confidence, admiration, nor respect. Can you get them now during the young adult years going on? They don't respect you then, they will not respect you. They don't respect you then, they will not respect you now. It's the impression that they have of you. So they will argue, criticize, test their boundaries, and so on. And they will try to get a grip of their own decision making, of their own understanding. So in a very real sense, we must let our teenagers make their own mistakes. Now, sometimes we don't want people to make mistakes. So rather than allowing them the freedom and to make their own decisions, we try to control them. And sometimes our suggestions are for controlling. Somebody speak to you once or twice and they suggest. After that, they try to control you to get you to do things their way and what they want. So going beyond that boundary is seeking to control them. And I will show you in a minute, that's the very thing that adolescents do not want. All right, right? You must allow them to make their own mistakes so that they can experience consequences and more fully develop their prefrontal cortex. It is said that you can learn from your own mistakes. That would make you more intelligent. That would show that you're intelligent. People who learn from their own mistakes are very intelligent. But wisdom is what they need, not just intelligence. You become more wise, you become wiser when you learn from the mistakes of others. You see the mistake that they made and you decide, I am not making those same mistakes, and you follow a different course. So wisdom comes from learning from the mistakes of others. You see a young lady or a young man follow a certain course and where it ended up, you choose to go a different way. That's wisdom. But if you make your own mistake and you learn from them, surely you're an intelligent individual. Very important. So they're developing their prefrontal cortex. So they will make mistakes inevitably. They will talk back to you, give you back chat. They will play deaf, ignore, deliberately rebel, or be defiant to your instruction. And there are reasons for those. Not that they're right in doing them, but there are reasons why they follow that course. Sometimes there are some of them, as I mentioned in closing the last time, some of them are responding to parents' predictability. What do I mean by that? Individual parents are usually quite predictable in reactions to the reactions or in their reaction to certain situations. Now we each have to adopt a style or a system of parenting that often becomes automatic. In a sense, and our kids know this better than we do, our children. They know it better than we do. They know just what we are going to say when they make a particular decision, especially if they made a decision, made that decision even before. And our attempts at discipline often become, we call it background noise to our teenagers, especially for parents who have a history of not following through with their decisions. Your background noise. That's what you become as a parent. Now, there are some parents who feel that they must worry, let the children know that they are worried about them. That's all well and good. But if it comes over again and again and again, that is one of the things that cause them to rebel. You must reach the point where you let them go and let them reap consequences of their individual judgment or decisions for independence. You don't want them to do something that will kill themselves. You can try to prevent as much as you can, but you want to make sure you give them guidance and freedom and be open in such a way that they can come back to you to ask questions. So they're responding sometimes to parent predictability, or they may feel trapped, or they may need more direction and guidance, or their hormones may be acting up, and that's real. You can't say that they're scot-free because of their behavior motivated by hormones, because intelligence sometimes can be trapped or be jeopardized by our hormones. A young man sees a girl, looks attractive to him, and like Samson, get her for me, for she pleases me well. Hormones in trouble, and the person in mind is in trouble. So there are ways how hormones affect teenage behavior, and we ought to know familiar with them. We have the social pressures, but we have to teach our teenagers or younger adolescents how to be critical of social media messages, how to be critical of them, and the importance of making right choices and how to resist peer pressure. We live in an age of technology, so we can scout for ways and means. That's important. Now we come to this text again. Let no man despise the youth, but be thou an example of the believers in word, in conversation, in charity, in spirit, in faith, and in purity. So parents, doing your best to teach your children the concept of owning their decisions and taking responsibility for their action is very critical. It helps to guide them and help them to navigate those adolescent years well, or much better. So back to the question, how do I motivate my adolescent? He seems so unmotivated and reluctant to do the things around the house. Now there are some pointers I want to give you. Listen carefully to them. Motivating young adolescents. Adopt a two mindset. Adopt two mindset. Two mindsets you have to adopt the adolescent, or they will put you into the two mindset mode. That is schizophrenia. That's another type, all right? But there are two mindsets that you need to adopt. We can control students' behavior through rewards or threats. Yeah, rewards or threats. But we can't use those methods to motivate that student to do anything he or she doesn't already want to do. Can't get it done. So the first mindset of teachers or parents the first mindset that parents or teachers need is the recognition that motivation is something we create with students, not something we do to them. Let me repeat that. The first mindset that parents or teachers need is to recognize that motivation is something we create with students or teenagers, and not something that we do to them. Our goal, for example, as a teacher, our goal should be a classroom culture that cultivates curiosity and personal investment, one in which students feel safe to engage in the activity or topic without fear or embarrassment or rejection. That's the same mindset the parent should have. To create a culture within the home that cultivates curiosity and personal development. One in which the students feel safe to engage in activities. They must feel safe to engage in activities or in topic discussion without fear of embarrassment or rejection. So if your teenager or adolescent is afraid to ask you questions about sexuality, something wrong. And if you can't, they don't want to get it from you for fear certain reason, they will go to others to get that information, which may not be accurate. So they must not have that fear of embarrassment or rejection of engaging in activities or discussion with their parents. And the second mindset that you must have as a parent, there's no such thing as laziness. Now you're going to say, well, that's not true, Brother Saul. Laziness. You see, human beings are hardwired. Don't get me wrong, there's some others that may be downright lazy, don't get me wrong. But generally, humans are hardwired to do demanding and complex things. And young adolescents are developmentally primed for learning things that are intellectually and physically advanced, learning new things, and for getting excited about their growing expertise and freedom that come with competence. Time and again, when a student successfully solves a difficult puzzle or a math problem, they say with a grin, give me another one. They like excitement, they like challenge. And as parents, you need to understand that. So it is not that they are lazy, it is maybe that they are not interested or they lack the resources to do it. And if it's in the presence of others and they know your type of personality, they may very well not want to respond. So you see those two mindsets, one in which you recognize, no, not like lazy. You know, there's some children we say don't memorize things. At school, we say they don't memorize things, but yet those children can memorize the music and large portions, and their memory and the other things that they can do that they're excited about. Yeah, but they're not lazy in those areas. It is just that they do not have the right atmosphere, the right tools, and the right resources or encouragement. They will feel that they'll be embarrassed or rejected if they even try. So why try? So that's number one. That's number one. Have a double, not double-minded, but a two mindset way of thinking when it comes to adolescence. If a student, for example, appears lazy, there's always something else going on that we can't see or can't control or that they're interested in. Yeah. A student who seems unmotivated may even lack the tools for the task. So they can't do it because they don't have the tools. For example, there are some people who don't know how to say no. They need to learn refusal skills. There are some students who don't know how to be assertive. They need to be taught assertive skills and to practice it so that they become more assertive and then become more confident that they have rights to disagree or rights to express their opinion. They need those tools. So a student who seems unmotivated may lack the tools for the task, or they may have too many responsibilities at home, or worry that they won't be valued if they attempt a task and fail. What will the parent do? You see, when a person is open to adolescents and connect with them, the person is willing to crawl out of their most embarrassing situation to discuss it with the person that they have confidence in. But if they feel that you're going to embarrass them or belittle them or reject them, they're not going to open up to you. Forget it. The second way of motivating adolescents is empathize with them. Now, empathize means seeing it through their eyes, seeing it from their point of view, where they're looking from. If I show you something that looks like a 6, it also looks like a 9, how would you know which number it is? It looks like a 6, but it also looks like a 9. How would you know which is it or it is? By putting it straight upright. If you put it one direction, you will know if it's a 6. And if you turn it the other way around, you will know if it's a 9. So you have to be able to see it from a right point of view or from a certain point of view to know. So empathizing with adolescents is a key area of building trust. Building what? Trust. Now, when we are young, when we have adolescents coming up and they don't have driver's license, or they just got their own license, but they want to use your expensive car to go with their friends to some get together. How do you feel as a parent? Lending them your expensive car to go and spend a little outing with their friends. How would you feel? The only way you're going to say yes, go ahead, is if you trust them. And if they are adolescents that are behaving irresponsibly, careless, challenging you at home as parent, are you going to feel comfortable allowing them to use your expensive car to go to an outing with their friends and then later get a call saying that the car went off the road and crashed into a pole? And you will say, oh, wonderful. You will have a wonderful learning experience. Is that what you would say? You see, trust comes when it is built up from adolescents' point of view towards you as a parent. Empathizing with them, that's important, and that builds trust. Allowing them to drive when you are present in their life, in the car, is key to developing confidence and building trust in them. And they in turn would build trust in you as a parent. So young adolescents need to trust that teacher, or your parent wouldn't humiliate you and let them humiliate themselves. Now, building relationships with students, with our adolescents, providing daily that risk-taking is safe in your class can dissolve those fears and replace them with courage. So it's something that has to be developed daily, building that trust. That risk-taking is safe, that they can afford to give a wrong answer when you ask a question in class. Or that if the parents are talking to them, they may give the wrong behavior. But they will come back and say, I'm sorry. They must feel free to practice risk-taking and feel that it is safe. If you are trying to control all the actions of your adolescent for the rest of their life till they become adults, well, you are taking a risk too as a parent, that they will sooner or later fire you from that role. So young adolescents intensely value teachers' opinions of them or significant others' opinion of them. Oh yeah, and they gravitate towards adults whose words match their actions. So when they see your words matching your actions, they gravitate towards you. And when you're a cool fellow that is open, they will even come and sit down next to you and talk to you. Even one stable relationship with one adult in their life can make the difference, can make a difference in the rest of their life. A significant other, Another point by which you can help motivate adolescents is remember where they are. Not only remember where they are, but remember where you were. Remembering where you were, not talking down to them or trying to lecture to them, but asking them their opinion and helping them in the process of making the right choices and decisions. Remember where they are. Remember what challenges they are facing and being bombarded with daily. Not only hormonal changes, but peer pressure. Pressure from school and teachers and results. Pressure from exams. Pressure from expectation of parents. Pressure, increasing pressure. And they can hardly cope with it. Remember where they are and what they're experiencing. Number 4, give descriptive feedback. Adolescents like to know that they're getting some feedback that is descriptive. And people who are motivational teachers or parents provide many exemplars, formative feedback, examples, they like to give examples, and formative feedback and opportunities for students to assess themselves. Not lecturing down to them, but giving them enough feedback so that they can assess themselves. Another way of motivating is teach them the way the mind learns or works. They would be interested in hearing that. How the mind learns and how it unlearns as well. Another important point is tell them stories and spark curiosity. Adolescents love things that sometimes, I still love storytelling. They themselves are storytellers and story receivers. They love to hear stories. No matter how old a person gets, everybody likes to hear stories. That's why I tell young individuals that are speaking, use an illustration to bring out the point you want to bring home. Don't just quote a Bible text. Take it and squeeze it. It may be a word in there that may be loaded, or it may be an illustration that can help bring out the point. If you're giving a presentation, don't just look at the screen and talk. You got to put the thing in your own words. People want to hear what you have to say, not what you have to read, or they have to listen to you reading. And that's important. Even in public speaking, tell stories to them and spark their curiosity. Leave something on their mind that they can think about later on. And so young adolescents are storytellers and they're story receivers. Remember, they are still children growing bigger. And all children like stories. And especially when you make it dramatic, when you are talking, you will grip their attention. And that's important. So very few teenagers completely lack motivation. It just needs to be channeled in the right direction. And especially from someone who's significant to them and who is going to motivate them and in whose presence they feel comfortable with. They won't feel embarrassed or rejected by expressing their beliefs or even disagreeing. So very few teenagers completely lack motivation. What many teenagers lack is the motivation to do stuff that doesn't matter to them. Doesn't seem important, or it's about satisfying an agenda of a parent that doesn't relate to them. So before I close, I want to give you 7 secrets to additionally motivating them, some questions that they may ask that you need to really consider. This is a common question that they ask if you want to motivate them. What's in it for me? If you want to motivate an adolescent, they need to answer that question. What's in it for me? Am I just going to be doing it because you want me to do it? What's in it for me? And this is the most important motivational ingredient of them all. If your teenager does not understand what the task has to do with them or their well-being, then it will be a struggle for them to find the desire to carry it out. Why do I have to do it? What's in it for me? That's a valid question. Teenagers long to feel significant. Long to feel what? Significant. They want to demonstrate to themselves and to the world that they matter and are capable of making a difference. And many of the problems that teenagers encounter today is because their desire to be significant, the desire to be significant is ignored or dismissed. I hope you got that point. What's in it for me? The next one is let them have a say. Sometimes adolescents want to talk, and parents say, don't talk to me, don't talk back to me. Let them have a say. So if your teenager feels like all they are being asked to do is to fit into your agenda, your timetable, or conform to your way of doing things, they are not going to be terribly motivated. When a parent gives a reason that says, because I told you so, you create a demotivating environment. Developmentally, teenagers are seeking to establish themselves as their own person, independent from their parents. That's what they're seeking to do. And you are killing it, demotivating them. Because I told you so. Can you imagine that? You're dealing with a baby now or infant, you're dealing with an adolescent, 6, 17, 18, 19. Is there any wonder that being asked to conform to a parent's agenda is demotivating? And parents just don't know how to deal with them at that stage because there's no school where they go to learn to deal with adolescents. So you have to discuss with them what chores they would prefer to do around the house. That's number one. Until you gain their confidence to be open, to be willing to do anything. Notice what I just said. Some people take out that exception and put it as the rule. Discuss with them what chores they prefer. You're trying to remedy a situation. You're not trying to create a mindset and attitude. You're trying to remedy a situation to motivate them to be more responsible, not to do all the things that you say for the rest of their lives. Discuss with them what chores they would prefer to do around the house. Set guidelines or deadlines, you said deadline, but give them the freedom to choose when and how a task is completed. You ask me to do it, you want to do it yourself? They're going to tell you. I do it my way, the way that I think it should be done, the task to be completed. So set deadline, but give them the freedom to choose when and how a task is to be completed. Discuss with them what they think is a reasonable expectation, and then share your expectation. Try to work with a compromising position that you're both comfortable living with. Give your teenager responsibility for the whole task. Don't let them half do whole task. For instance, if they have to cook one night a week, let them set the menu and arrange for the shopping to be done. Or if their job is to clean the bathroom, let them be responsible for decorating it as well. Everything comes together. Another important principle, let them learn from failure. I said that before, learn from their failures. When parents constantly step in and try to rescue their teens from failing, they undermine their teenagers' ability to grow up. No parent wants to see their children fall, but it is through failure that we grow and learn to improve. I've watched children in a park play a part in America. The Spanish people will allow their children to fall and get back up, dust off their hands and go again. But some of the others, I will describe the race, will try to hold them and don't want to make sure that if they try to move off on their own and they're about to fall, they'll try to hold them, stop them from falling. You can't learn like that. Parents too overprotective. They must have sometimes a time on their own. They may fall, they may cry, they will wipe off their feet and their hands, and they go again. That's a part of learning. So no parents want their children to fall, to fail, or the adolescent, but it is through failure that we grow and learn to improve. Another important point, critical, help them to remember. But whether you know it or not, you see that thing called the prefrontal cortex in adolescence, it is prone to forget. What did I just say? Don't tell me you forget. It is prone to forget. You give an adolescent a task to do. You come back and they see you, they remember, and then scramble to do it. But they are prone to forget. You have to remember that. It is not always the case that teenagers don't want to do things, because they are not motivated. That's not the reason. Often they fail to follow through simply because they forget, whether you know it or not. What was I saying again? You forgot? The reality is teenagers, particularly younger ones, are hardwired to forget. Come on, parents. You're understanding what I'm saying. Their brains are reforming and haven't got all the bits joined up yet. With all the stuff going on in their own lives, it is very easy for teenagers to get distracted and forget. They need help to remember what they committed themselves to doing and to get organized. I hope you understand that's a critical fact. And nagging them as parents is like what Solomon said about a wife in a house. It is better to live in the corner of a house top than in a house with a nagging woman. It's like dripping tap. Nagging is not the solution, parents. And no adolescent likes a nagging parent. If you nag your teenager, you make it about your agenda and about keeping you happy. That's what you're turning it into. This does not help your teenager's motivation. In fact, nagging is a great demotivator. Teaching your teens to be organized and remember is part of what parents need to do. Remembering is what part that parents need to do. Work with your teens to develop methods of remembering that don't require you to be involved. Use visual aids such as charts, color-coded rosters, or timetables, and place them in obvious places. And help your teenager create routines in their weeks that help them to establish patterns. They follow patterns very easily. Leave little hints around the house about a task that needs to be completed. And they will do it to your surprise. They will want to surprise you and do it. Get them to use an app or a program on their computer or phone or iPod as part of the reminding process. They're very skilled at that. Another critical point before we close off, the last two, make it achievable, something that they can achieve. Sometimes it is the size of the task that teenagers find hard. Is the what? The size of the task that makes the teenagers find hard. It isn't that they don't want to do it, It is rather that they don't know where to start, and it all looks so hard. You see, you're not in their shoes, so you can't understand what is going through their thinking process. If your teenager is putting off getting started, it can sometimes be helpful to sit down with them to find out how they're feeling about getting it done. Do they know where to start? They may not know where to start. Do they feel that they will never be able to do it? So they can't be bothered starting? Or maybe they feel scared about failing. Even adults have that, scared of failing or making a point in a group. Whatever the reason is, offering your help to teenagers to think through the process of getting the job done could be just the thing that they need. And you may need even to break down the task into a series of smaller, achievable tasks with shorter deadlines. Teenagers often struggle with long-term planning, but they respond well to more immediate time horizons. By helping your teenager come up with a series of small steps, small chunks, you empower them to work their way through the entire task. Very important. Second last one, provide incentives. What do I mean by that? And there's a more specific example of that. And that's connected to point one. What is it? What is in it for me? Provide incentives. You don't feel like washing your car because it's your car. Why do I have to wash your car? Well, if you wash the car, or if you help out, you will get some of the profits. But is it worth? It is worth spelling out separately. What incentives are you providing? You got the money, you got the whatever. They don't have, they want. Offer them some incentive. And number 7, make it fun. Make it fun. This motivational principle applies to people of all ages and not just teenagers. Most people are more motivated to do something fun rather than something boring. True or false? Fun is the key ingredient in getting teenagers active and motivated to participate in social activities. When we had socials and get together and we did some games that were shocking to them, they were all attentive. You know, you point out something, a particular thing, touch it, call a partner, tell the partner which one did he touch. And they would press the particular one. But there's a little trick in there. Or even the word that was given. The partner is not around, but the partner can tell you what the word is, even though they were not around. That sparks curiosity in the adolescent mind. Fun, social activity. So if you want your team to get out of the house, get active and make new friends, anything like that, then explore with them what activities it is that they enjoy doing or are interested in and encourage them to do it. Remember, what you enjoy may not be what your teenager enjoys. Be sure to interest them. Be sure to show interest and value whatever it is that your teenager considers interesting and fun. Teenagers, particularly boys, respond to competition. No matter how menial the task is, any job can be transformed into a passion-filled activity. Competition, if there's not a competitive aspect, can be transformed into a passion-filled activity if there's a competitive aspect involved. They're created of their own. Competition doesn't always require having others to compete against each other. Oh no. Sometimes young people respond to a challenge better their own to better their own previous efforts. And if your teenager can learn something by playing games, watching a movie that's helpful, or in searching the internet, then encourage them to do it. Using technology as a part of any task makes it instantly more appealing to young people today, this technological age. I'm going to stop there. Time. Any questions or comments in this last section? Very, very important. I see one comment, not hearing you. I hope that is not for the entire time, without anybody telling me. Hello? No one. No, we can hear you. Okay, great. Everyone can hear? All can hear. Alex, of course, you have auditory problems. listening problems. Any questions or comments? Last section. Oh, you heard me the whole time. Great. Patricia.
Yes, good evening. This is Adrian. I'm speaking.
Who's speaking?
Adrian.
Adrian, go ahead.
For them to learn things, they have to train them from young. So when they get older, they will have it within them. But we
Right.
say in Proverbs 22 verse 2 say, train a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. So as you go
Must keep
older,
on going that way.
right. So
But you can train up a child in the way he should go, and he may choose not to continue to go that way.
But you gotta make sure that he keep on going that way until he reach.
Right. That's where they need guidance.
30. Right.
Right. So they need guidance. And that's where older adults who have experience can help guide the younger ones.
Correct.
And that's important. But sometimes young people feel like they know better than the adults and that they can navigate themselves better without counsel. That's a dangerous road to travel.
Yeah. The parents know better, like parents were not there when they're two were younger. So the parents will know what the quantity consequences.
Sometimes we quarrel with adults for behaving certain ways, not knowing that they're still at the adolescent stage of growth.
Okay.
Because there's a chronological age and there's a mental age in terms of level of development and a chronological age in terms of age. You have to know the difference between the two. A person may be 25, 26, 28, and acting like a 17-year-old, 18-year-old.
Never at all.
Right, that's not good. Those are developmental barriers, preventing their stagnating their growth. They are not developing, they're not learning from the past, they're not learning from others. They keep on behaving the same way towards people, and their attitude is still negative. All of that. They are still at adolescent stage. They may be 29, 30, but they're still at adolescent stage. That's possible.
If
you get certain corresponding behavior at that age, even some grown-up men and women behave like children or adolescents.
That should never be so.
Yes, and that's true.
If mommy and daddy quarreling, will it affect each other?
Well, maturity is what is required to even raise children in this world.
If mommy and daddy are quarreling, will it affect each other?
If
mommy and daddy are quarreling, will it affect each other?
I hear that word. If they are quarreling, what?
If mommy and daddy are
quarreling,
will it affect each other?
Quarreling.
Yeah.
That's a key word in there, boy. Yes, it will affect the child. It makes the child unstable emotionally. It can make the child feel insecure. And it can, if it is serious, it can lead the child to become a lifelong schizophrenic.
Whoa.
Impact on the child.
That's sad.
Child will never feel secure. Because if your two most significant adults in your life are constantly bickering, quarreling, fighting in your presence, look out.
Okay.
So be careful. And that's why I tell parents in counseling, do not express your disagreement in the presence of the children. Go somewhere else and y'all fight it out.
Right, correct. I agree.
And then come back to the child with a united front. The child will feel that your love for him is fickle and will not be able to trust significant others in its life. That affects the child mentally. All right. Any other questions or comments?
All right.
People have been pretty silent.
One comment.
Go ahead, comment. Thank you.
Yeah, listen to the program for the last 2 weeks. I was able to refer someone to listen in to these programs. They would have had an issue with a teenage son who was providing well past endurance up here where he's really provided some challenges. And I'm pleased to report that it seems that there has been some measure of improvement just by putting
Good.
into place some of the things that you were suggesting. So I'd just like to say thanks.
It works. Praise the
Uh,
Lord.
Okay, bye.
Yes. It's good to share experience of things that work. We call it best practices. Very important. The others can try it. Sister Audrey?
Yes. I have 3 sons, but I find you deal with each child in a different way. I can say that I have Kevin, and he was way different than the other 2 boys. But listening to you, I find that sometimes we compromise with the children, and a lot. Yes, I understand where you're coming from, but I see it like if we are. I know you don't mean it that way, but like we are the hard ones that dealing with children, and then through it all that you were saying, I asked myself, are we doing the will of the Lord? What you're saying, or are we compromising with these children? We have them. You're saying that if they want to do something, we as parents should give them let them fall on their own weight. Sometimes that can be detrimental. And I find that what we have to do as parents, set down the law, show them what God will want them to do, even if they stray. I see I have even Caleb, and he went his way. But I find now because of what he went through, he's more softer. I can able to touch him, I can able to talk to him. But I find that we cannot allow the children, maybe I was too rough as a mother, but we can't allow the children to think that they can do as they like. And we can't say anything because you may rock the boat, but I prefer to rock the boat, allow them to see this is the way. If you choose that way, you will suffer this pain. I always tell my granddaughter that if you choose this way, things will happen. Like even she was telling me day before, Granny, she have a phone her mother gave her. I can't do nothing about that. But what I'm saying, she said, I need a password to put on my phone. You want what? At this time, the age 7, yes. Because my father, I see he checking my phone. I told her he's checking it to see that you don't go and do anything, or somebody send you something on the phone. We got to look up for you. She said, but it's my choice whether to have one. So I'm saying, as a parent to her, should I say, well, you able to, as you saying, we can talk. She got her own little idea at 7. I think we should put it down, the rules. You can't have a password. And far from that, if you're insisting, because you let children brighter than us and putting on this thing, take it from her. So I want to know if you're saying that the little wimps and fancy that you have a child coming up in church and you compromising with these children, where we went wrong. To me, we went wrong in some way, like to me, compromising with children. You know what? I don't want sister so-and-so see how my child behave. So you allow that child to go on and do it as it like. I tell you, I made mistakes with my children because we compromised. When I tell them we should stay in the house, but then you're saying, but let the children out there. I tell you that my son when he used to play football, and I seen he coming home a certain time when this football done. He coming home late. And I said, but this is not good enough. But you know what he told me? Mommy, going with the church, children. And yet these children were doing things that only after you find out that hurt you. And I think I should have nicked that in the bud. But I say they're going with children, so let it go alone. So tell me, Brother Saul, where we're supposed to hold your rein and where we're supposed to let it go, and when we're supposed to depend on God, not the feelings of the children. Everybody will got feelings. You understand me? And the children, to me nowadays, want to do as they like, and you as a parent must say, all right, you're going to make a choice later on. That person may die in a sense. Thank you.
I follow you. With reference to the little child buying a cell phone, that condition has to be put in before you buy the phone, and the child's agreement that you will not be able to put a password on it. That condition will have to be applied before with the child's agreement. And as parents, we have the right to search the phone of children to see what they are watching, what sites they're going on, and what is influencing their minds. Part of number one. When I said that you have to give them choices and let them choose and make a decision about X or Y, I was talking, and I repeated it twice, that I was talking about remedying a situation or remedying a problem in terms of motivating a child that may be unmotivated. You have to start somewhere, and one of the best ways to start is telling the child, you know, what task you feel most comfortable doing, how much time, and how to adapt to that task. When you get that child do that and it sees nothing wrong with it and it can manage it, there are times when you must encourage the child to keep on doing or other tasks. You're getting it motivated to do other tasks. And that's why I mentioned that one. You have to start somewhere with an unmotivated adolescent. You understand me, right?
Yes, I understand you, but I also
that's not spoiling or compromising.
I didn't say that, but I'm saying the children, they have the carnal mind. And we as parents, because we do not want to rock the boat, we allow those children.
You have to be firm, but when they reach the stage of adolescence about to go out of your hand,
we allow them to go out.
You have to make sure that one, you are not compromising. Two, that they may have to learn their own lesson or by failing, and that they will learn from that your instructions were wise instructions and judgment. And so they will learn from their mistakes. But you can't be dictating and beating them to do what you want. That was the point I was making. They will see that it is only your agenda and you got to do as I say. When you should seek persuasion methods during the process, during the period of adolescence, confidence and helping them, persuading them to do things. Trying to bully tactics, using bully tactics or demanding or whatever based on your agenda is not going to work. You know how many parents have lost their adolescent because of that? You can count them on your hands. They have lost the adolescent because of those bullying tactics, rather than using a different diplomatic approach to gain their confidence, still get them to do what you want, know that they had a choice, and feel comfortable doing it without fear of embarrassment or rejection or criticism. You see, we have to change sometimes our parenting style when it comes to adolescence. We didn't learn how to do it from anywhere, but now we have to learn through trial and error. But now we have the church instructing and guiding based on the principles that have been laid down. That's in both Bible and Spirit of Prophecy. You can actually follow God's way of dealing with them and have a paradigm shift in your parenting style. Even those who may have been distant or detached from their adolescent, who are now men or women, can still reconnect with them through that paradigm shift in their parenting style, and still have them now as close and emotionally, that is. So you can correct it with the right method, and you can start with the right method. So compromising, you know, there's something called a healthy compromise, meeting them halfway, especially when you're trying to rectify a situation. If it is a normal child, adolescent, without that unmotivated spirit or attitude towards you, then there are certain things that you can just easily win their confidence in, and let's do this together, rather than you dictating the child to do what you want, when you want, how you want, without the child benefiting or feeling bored or not knowing what's in it for me. It's just your agenda you have to fulfill. That's the angle from which I was coming. Not a bullying tactic method, but one of persuasion, encouragement, and coaxing.
How will you do with your child when school is finished and the child has to come home and say, the child is at school playing with his friends and not realizing that time is gone they're not realizing that time is gone in order to get home. What will you do with that child? Will you beat it, or will you
What age?
punish?
Huh?
8 years old.
8 years old, and the child forget.
Yeah.
Is it negligent? Is it childish, irresponsible behavior? Is it willful, defiant behavior? Is it forgetfulness? What is it? What is the cause of it? It's
Right.
important to understand. A man killed 4 people the other day because he was texting. The judge gave him 110 years in prison. A man who kills somebody else or murders gets less time than that. Deliberately killed somebody gets less time than that. But he gave 110 years for this young person in prison for accidentally killing 4 people. You see what I'm saying?
All right.
You have to understand, based on the age group, how to mete out what punishment. If it is deliberate, willful, defiant, if it is irresponsible behavior, if it is negligence, forgetfulness, and based on that, you should, well, there's a particular way you would approach.
The child may forget that it's time to go home. And still playing with
Child
friends
forget to
at
what?
school. Child may forget
Time to get home.
Get home, yeah. And so at
Well, that's
school,
forgetfulness.
play with
And
friends.
as I said earlier, sometimes children get taken up with the activities, become
Right.
distracted,
Correct.
even adolescents. Furthermore, 8-year-old. 8-year-old is more easily distracted than adolescent. And adolescents have the tendency to be distracted even
Right.
from important activities. And sometimes they don't even remember.
So what
So
will
I'm
the parent?
saying, don't forget where you were
Correct.
in
So
dealing with this.
what will the parent do if the child forgets?
Even the parents forget sometimes. Should the adolescent beat the child, the parent?
I don't think so. Shouldn't be child. Just tell your child, remember next time, when school is finished, come home. Simple.
Yeah, sometimes we get on our hard. I feel we can forget, but they can't forget.
All right.
All right, the slip of the mind, not the heart.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you very much. If no one else has any questions or comment, I saw one here. What if you encourage your adolescent to make friends with church peers, but is rejected by those, but find friends with secular neighbors and schoolmates? What do you do? Now, church activity can definitely push children into the world, especially if they see how they are treated at church. That's a hard one. Because if you are not treating them well at church, if they're not being treated well at church, they will gravitate towards those friends on the outside who seem more committed and make them feel belonging. So the need for belonging is one of the characteristics of adults or even teenagers. And therefore, you should talk to somebody who can try to befriend them. It's just one person they need to befriend, and you can help keep them in the straight and narrow way. But there are some, as my wife often says, there are some children that you would need to keep your children from, even at church. Some people disagreed with her, but there are some children that may have a negative influence upon your children. And you have to make a choice or decision. So if they find friends in secular world or in the neighborhood or the schoolmates, that is the result of, so you have to sit your child down and talk about influences and friendship and seek to encourage others to be his friend that would be a good influence upon them. Remember the story of the man who went to church and his cell phone rang by mistake and people reprimanded him, they quarreled with him and so on. The man felt discouraged and went out and went to a rum shop. And he, while drinking, he broke a glass and they cleaned up, gave him a fresh drink, a compliment of the bar, and they'll clean him up, give him something fresh to put on, and he never stopped going back there to the rum shop. He was treated better at the rum shop than at church. So be careful as church members how we treat visitors. Right. And if we treat them negatively, they may never come back again. You have to be very, very, very careful.
I myself.
Let them choose their friends spiritually well.
Right.
Yes, go ahead.
I myself got late for not coming home from school early evening. My mother did that to me when I was a boy. When school finished, I didn't get home at the same time. I started school, with my friends, I just get home. I got late. Yep.
I thought you made your experience. Well, you have to make a deliberate effort to note things that are important to your parents, especially at a certain age. And if a child has a tendency of forgetting things that are important, it may be another problem. That's all I'm saying. If you keep forgetting things over and over again, it may be another problem. So beating a child for forgetting when it has a serious problem in terms of memory lapses, in terms of short-term memory or long-term memory, or even the retrieval unit in the brain, they can't recall the information because it is not significant to them. But we remember things that are significant to us.
Very well.
We remember things that are meaningful, that are important. But sometimes we relegate things that are important and meaningful to nothing, and therefore we forget. That's why Paul says, don't neglect the things that you have heard. They are important. But we forget for a number of reasons. I don't have time to go through that, but forgetfulness is a curse. As we say, and laziness makes it worse.
The child may need some B12.
Or gypsiness, that's it.
The child may need some B12.
Oh, but you may need some memory, some supplement as you know.
Yeah.
To help memory and concentration.
True.
All right?
All right.
All right. Practice memory. Try to memorize things as well. The more you memorize things and Bible texts and others and practice yourself to memorize it, the stronger the retainment capacity in the brain holds it. It makes the brain more elastic, stronger in retaining information. Right. But you got to memorize things to learn and develop.
True.
And we have an age in which people don't memorize things except like the music and others they're interested in. But church people nowadays don't memorize, they don't even take notes of things to go back and check, like the Bereans. They don't take notes. They assume they're going to remember everything. So they don't take any notes.
They should.
They should. To go over it, like the Bereans, to check, to see if these things are. So if they watch over it again and they check the Bible text or whatever they can understand or listen over again, it may help retain it better, because eventually you have to share it with someone. God doesn't share things with us for us to keep to ourselves. He shares it with us so that we can impart to others. And the more we impart, the more we receive, and the better we remember it to share with others again. That is the key to remembering things, imparting. Anyhow, thank you very much for your cooperation. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask us on leacock@gmail.com or call me at 822-3880. God bless you until we meet again on this topic. We shall probably discuss other issues another time, but when that time comes. God bless you. Take care. Have a good evening. Let us pray. Our dear God and Father, thank you for all that has been said during this series on your blueprint for marriage and family life. Let what has been heard sink into our minds, vibrate in our hearts, and truly may we go over these things to check, like the noble Bereans, to see if these things are so. Those who might not have been present, who might not have heard, who might not have showed interest, who might have had a callous attitude towards this series, even though they have children and adolescents. Forgive them and help them to develop an interest in their charges that they may have to give you an account for what they could have heard or failed to practice. Thank you for being with us. Continue to abide with us. Make us a more enlightened and intelligent people when it comes to your blueprint for marriage and family life. Thank you for willingly and lovingly hearing and answering our prayer. In Jesus' precious name, amen. Let the words of our mouths and the meditations of our heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen.